Hello and welcome to the SCLD podcast. I'm Erin Dodge, a communication specialist with the Spokane County Library District, and today I'm here talking with
Stacy Goddard. Hi, I thought you were going to say it, but I can say it.
I almost was, but then I thought, no, you can introduce yourself.
I like how you mix it up, so.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about what you do here at the library.
I am a public services service manager, and I oversee a team that provides support to our small business community, as well as helping with career development and high school students getting into the job market, their first jobs. We also do a whole bunch of financial literacy related programming. They're kind of all interconnected.
All right, great.
Yeah.
And today we're talking more about businesses.
We are.
And people starting a business. And also a little bit we're going to touch on nonprofits and starting a nonprofit organization. Although they're different, they're also kind of the same, nonprofits and for-profit businesses.
That is true. That is true. And I think we're going to go a little old school. Is that right?
That sounds good.
Yeah,
Let's
talk
do
about
that.
books. Is that okay?
Books. We're a library. We have books.
I know. I'm very excited to dive into one of our digital resources, but I think it's also a great time to remind people that we have books. We're a library.
And a lot of business books. I was just in the business section here at this library. We're in Spokane Valley at the studio. And there was so many about, businesses, careers, business plans, marketing, like just the gamut.
There definitely is. Should we show a couple of these off?
Yes.
All right. Well, so this is a great one. This is one of our newer ones called Imagine It Forward, Courage, Creativity, and the Power of Change by Beth Comstock. And one of the questions we get a lot with people is they want to change careers, but they're kind of, decision paralysis. They're not sure what to do, what their first step might be. And this is one of the newer books on a range of topics that we have about people looking at second careers, or some people refer to it as a side hustle. They maybe want to start a little thing on the side to help supplement their family's income.
Yes.
We have lots of inspirational stories like this one that go through how someone can maybe take those first steps and start making those dreams a reality for themselves.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And look at that pretty cover.
It's beautiful.
And then we have this one, which is, it's been around a little bit. It's The CEO Next Door. And I'm just going to read a little bit of what it's about. So it's based on an in-depth analysis of over 2,600 leaders that has been drawn from a database of more than 17,000 CEOs and C-suite executives, as well as 2 decades of experience advising CEOs and executive boards. So basically this says it overturns the myths about what it takes to get to the top and succeed.
Yeah, that's
so
fantastic.
There's myths about, I think one of the myths is just you work really hard and then you get promoted and you can become CEO someday.
Right.
But that's a myth, I think.
Right.
I haven't read this yet, so
No,
is it going to tell me it's a myth?
I think you're on track, and I think
Okay.
that the fact that someone has pulled all that data together, and then you can kind of really look at the information in some of the case studies. But something we hear a lot is people thinking, well, I'm not going to do what Bill Gates does, or I'm not the next Elon Musk or Tim Cook. And we don't have to be.
Right.
People walking around with great ideas every day, and there are a ton of resources that we have at the library that can help people develop those ideas. So I think, that, and then what you were talking about kind of is sometimes called bootstrapping. Like if people just work hard enough, things will happen. And I think we all know that's not true, especially after the past 2 years. There's any number of obstacles that can come up and get in people's ways.
Exactly.
So that's a great book for kind of getting into some of that.
All right.
I'll do this next one.
Yes.
So this next one is The Soul of an Entrepreneur, Work and Life Beyond the Startup Myth by David Sachs. And this one, I have to say I haven't read it, but I was skimming through it, and it really delves into what it means to be an entrepreneur and how it's really a mindset, which we talked about the last time you had me on the podcast.
Yes.
It's really just knowing that you're going to need to do the work, and you're going to need to start developing some contacts and think about what it is you really want to sell, who your market might be, how you're going to make those things start to happen.
So we just kind of touched on a minute ago, some people might think if I build it, if I do the thing, people will come to me. But this is taking it a step further. Like you can do the work, but you also need to do the things that are the soul of the entrepreneur.
Correct. There's a lot, like you just.
There's more to it.
This is going to sound corny, but you really have to like eat, breathe, sleep it. It can't just be something you do a couple hours a day.
You have to start telling a lot of people about it in many different ways for it to, snowball and get going.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly right.
And then we mentioned this a second ago, or at the very beginning, nonprofits. So this is well used. It's
Yes.
tattered and well loved. It's nice and thin, but it's the one-page business plan for nonprofit organizations. And we have coming up a SCORE Business is doing a workshop on how to build a sustainable nonprofit.
Yes, that's in May.
And so I'm gonna let you hold that,
Yes.
and I'm gonna hold up Engage, where all of our programs are through May.
And it's going to be on the third Thursday in May, which I should know the date offhand.
I'll find it, May 19th.
I was going to say the 19th.
So it's right here in the middle of our, right here. So there it is, building a sustainable nonprofit.
Fantastic. And we're super excited. This SCORE mentor, Rich Wallace, has done this presentation for us before. We're hoping that with it being virtual this time, we're going to be able to connect with a few more people that maybe weren't able to come when we did it in person the last time a couple of years ago. And he's really going to touch on the different things that that are involved when you're looking at getting a nonprofit started. As you mentioned, there's a lot of similarities to a for-profit business, but there are some key differences and things to keep in mind.
And I think that that's interesting because you can have aspire to your own business and have it be a nonprofit. So you can aspire to wanting to start a charitable organization that has to do with your passions.
Yep.
And you can get help at the library.
You know, and one of the things we're seeing more of, and I expect that some of the attendees at that workshop may have this, is people are looking at hybrid business models where there's a nonprofit component to their for-profit business.
Oh.
So perhaps they commit to donating a certain amount of proceeds to a particular organization, or they might have a some other way that they're incorporating that, you know, giving back to the community into their for-profit, like how they're going to keep things going. And I think that, I joke sometimes that, you know, that's a generational thing, that's something that's very important to millennials and to Gen Z after?
Yes, I'm getting a nod off camera,
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. That's something that we're finding is very important to the younger generations that are entering the workforce. They really want to be able to point to a difference that they're making in the work they do.
And I like that idea, especially, you know, with all of the problems going on in the world, it's good to give back. So
Exactly, for sure.
Well, great. And now I want to talk about our digital resources. So
I'd love to talk about that. So yes.
And digital resources, you'll find them on our website. We have a digital library right on our website, which is www.scld.org. And in there, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of digital resources, but we have some very specifically for business and for nonprofit.
We sure do.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is where you're going to have to cut me off because and we could talk about a number of things. And I know the last time I was on, we talked about a couple things like people, if they are needing help doing research for, they're doing a business plan or a proposal where they're going to talk to a funder. There are some things that anyone, whether it's a for-profit or a nonprofit business, you're going to need to show the lender that you've done some research on, like who's your potential market,
that makes sense.
Who's going to buy the service or who's going to be served by your nonprofit. And we've got resources like Demographics Now that we can help, we can show aspiring business owners how to get those figures. Maybe one common request we get a lot is like people want to size up their competition, like see who else in the area might be offering a similar service. And that's something that we can help with. It was formerly Reference USA. I think it's called Data Axle now, but
yes, Data Axle.
We sure don't name these
Let's
resources.
say Reference Center or something like that.
Think all of those words are in the name for sure. So those are kind of common people. If they've come to us for business help, they know about those.
Okay.
We recently got a whole suite of resources from a vendor named Gale. And one of the ones I'm most excited about is, and I wrote the name down so I didn't get it wrong, it's the Gale Business Plan Builder. Oh. And one of the things that I'm most excited about with this product is that it has both a for-profit and a nonprofit path that you can follow.
Perfect.
And if people are getting started with opening their own business or kind of starting to plan that, one of the first things that can put them off is if they do a quick Google search about like how long should a business plan be and how much should it include.
Yes.
The conventional wisdom that's out there says this document should be 30 to 50 pages long.
Wow.
And I would run screaming if I If I had to
That's
do
like a master's thesis.
that. And it's got all these things that, traditionally like banks or other traditional lenders are really
Sure.
they want to know your projections and all these numbers and figures
Sure.
and charts and graphs. And that's just like a terrifying place to start.
Yes.
Personally, I feel that way. But this Gale Business Plan Builder has a feature called Lean Canvas that's kind of, it's a fancy word for a worksheet that kind of breaks down, it's kind of tricking, it tricked me into starting the framework for a business plan is pretty much what
Okay.
it did. It breaks things down into different categories, such as like with the Canvas model, the first question they ask is, what problem is your service or product going to solve? Like, what need is out there?
Right.
That what you're
Kind of always the first thing everybody who, what do you do? Oh, I have
Right.
my own business. Oh, what does it do? And
Right.
Oh, who buys that, or who uses that, or
Exactly.
if you're just having that sort of casual conversation, that's what everybody asks.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the first thing, but then it also includes like, here's the box where you talk about what your solution is. How is your product addressing this need? How is it different from things that are already out there? And then there are scarier things like, what's the cost structure and things like that. But one of the other things I like about this product is for each section, when you click on it, there's a bunch of prompts at the top. Like, these are things to consider as you're filling out this section. So for me, the finance parts, I was freaking out, even though I was really doing, I have a sort of a business idea in the back of my head for like
Sure.
a side hustle. It's probably never going to happen, but just the finance part freaks me out so much. But being able to click on that and see the suggested things to think about,
Okay.
like really kind of brought my stress level down, because I was like, oh, I can look into that or see what this answer might be.
Right.
But the other thing with this Lean Canvas is that you can skip around and fill out the parts that you're most comfortable with first.
Oh, nice.
And so for me, like, I ignored all the math related, which is the worst thing to say probably.
Well, no, you just find that friend who's really good at math.
Right.
And invite them to help you.
I'm like, I don't know how I want to price things or anything like that. But so I just kind of left that to look at later. But in the meantime, I can work on the things that I'm more comfortable or confident with. And everything has links right out to, like, if you're not sure what this means, here's information on what a cost benefit analysis is and why it's important. So it's not just you're filling stuff in and hoping you get it right. There are all these resources right there to help you kind of go through step by step. And of course, staff here at the library, we're thrilled to help walk people through it.
Yeah.
And then there is, as I mentioned, there's a nonprofit section, and it focuses things on like who might your key partners be as you're launching your nonprofit,
Right.
and who's the audience, who are the clients that you're hoping to reach, and what sort of competition might be out there that you're going to need to address. And so it's got similar things, but it's definitely got that flavor of nonprofits, things that I wouldn't think about, like, oh, yeah, you'd want to, like, it would be a much stronger proposal to a lender if you could say, I'm working with these two existing businesses in the community and they're going to help make this a stronger endeavor. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. And then we didn't really plan on this, but since we're here,
Sure.
let's talk about what the other resource that we have for nonprofits that's in library use only at specific
Yes.
libraries.
Yes, and that is Foundation Directory Online.
Yes.
And that one I would really recommend. It does need to be in library use, and you can use it here at Spokane Valley, at our North Spokane Library, I
Yes.
believe, and then also our Cheney Library.
Right.
And if you've not used it before, I really recommend using our Book a Librarian service to get some guided help with it.
Yes.
Because when people first hear about it, they think, oh, great, I can just plug stuff in and it's going to give me a list of potential funders. And that's not quite what it does.
There's steps and there's
Right.
things to consider. I did take a workshop on this.
Oh, nice.
And sat in on one actually, and it was really informative, and just the sort of the way you can do categories, and you can do by region, you can do different funding levels, you can do like your competitors.
Right.
Who are you competing with for these funds? And
then it does, if I'm remembering correctly, because it's been probably longer since I took a course, but it really identifies who those funders are, and then you as the individual still need to
Yes.
pursue that option. It's not like you can't submit one application through Foundation Directory Online for potential funding, unfortunately. Maybe someday someone will build that resource.
oh, there's a business idea.
There you go. You're welcome to whoever wants to
Whoever
to take that
runs
up.
with that one.
But yeah, it's a fantastic place to start because especially with federal funding and all there are so
Yes.
many funding streams out there that it's overwhelming, and
Yeah, so-
being able
and-
to do those categories really helps, like
Yeah.
you said.
And it's directories in the name because it is pretty much a directory. It's not helping you
Right.
submit a grant proposal or anything. It's
Right.
giving you the information of who to submit to.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we at the library have other resources to talk, and including great books that we didn't pull off the shelf, but
Yeah.
on grant writing basics and how to get started, and what things make a successful proposal or application.
And there might be some math.
Yeah, there might be some math. I'll make sure someone else on my team helps with the math. You won't get stuck with me for sure. So,
Great. And let's go back to other business resources
Sure.
and what we provide and what we have an upcoming. We didn't talk about this. Don't we have an upcoming one this month as well?
we do, and I have to confess, I don't remember when this is going to air, so I don't want to talk about something that will have already happened by the time this airs. We have something
Well, it's
the last week
Wednesday,
in
May
April?
4th.
Yes, that's actually the one I'm doing. So.
Okay, so we're all set. So Wednesday, May 4th from 6 to 7 p.m. It's
Yes.
Library Business Resources. And so you're going to go into a little more depth than what we
Yes.
can talk about here today.
Exactly.
but so
Foundation Directory Online is on my list.
Okay.
It'll be more theoretical because it's at our Argonne Library where we can't access it, and that's completely a vendor regulation. That's the subscription we've paid for. They don't want people to just be able to access it everywhere. That's not our choice, but that's why. We're going to talk. I'll be talking about ProQuest, which is an
Oh.
online resource to search journals, magazines, professional newspapers, and things like that.
Trade journals.
Trade journals, yes, thank you. Yep, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So there's a great trade journal called First Research Industry Profiles, I believe, and
Okay.
we use that a lot when we're working with business owners and entrepreneurs to, it's kind of a snapshot of a market at any particular time, and it's
Nice.
produced quarterly, so the information is always very up to date.
That sounds great.
And it'll talk about, I use coffee stands as an example because I'm a coffee addict.
And there's a lot of them
There
in the
sure
region, so we
are.
can relate.
So it'll talk about like these are the trends, these are the expenses. They're keeping track of like the cost of, coffee beans are expensive depending on what's going on globally.
Yes.
And then, the recent report I looked at was addressing labor shortage being an issue because it's an
Yes.
issue everywhere.
Yes.
So there's some things to consider, and then how do you compete with the Starbucks and the other big
Right.
names that are out there.
Yeah.
So those are fantastic, but you can also search some local things like our Journal of Business in Spokane. We have some ways to access Spokesman Review. So if you're trying to get a line on some competitors that you're looking at, or kind of keeping track of new construction or something, we've
Yeah.
got ways to help with that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What else do you have on your list?
So the other thing we are going to talk about, it's Data Axle Reference Solutions. So I think you
We
nailed
were-
it before.
I
Yes.
think I said reference center. We were close.
So that one, I always think about that resource. It used to be called Reference USA. It was one of the first, I've worked with the district a long time, and it's one of the first digital resources we got. And at the time, it was thought of more of an online phone directory, and people used it to like get in touch with old classmates and whatever. But
Oh.
there's an enormous business section.
Okay.
And there's a lot of things you can do, including if someone's trying to do targeted mailing. Some people still mail out flyers or postcards. You can get a sales list.
I get lots of mail.
I sure do too. People want to buy my house. Every time in
Oh,
the mail I get
yeah.
that. So I want to buy your house postcard.
But then where would I live?
Exactly. And then there's also a consumer spending module in
Oh.
Data Axle Reference Solutions that will let you identify a target market. And we've used this with customers a number of times. Maybe somebody is going to open up a specialty store. The other besides coffee example, I'll use is like a wine and cheese shop, because I would like to visit a wine and cheese shop sometime. And you can do some research based on consumer spending habits, and it could be things like magazine subscriptions, gym memberships, clubs, pet owner, like Experian and the other credit card companies are tracking so much
Wow.
consumer data that's a
Yes.
little scary when you start to think about it. But if it's really helpful when you're trying to get,
For a business and you're trying to get
Yes.
information, it's super helpful.
so you can do some searching, put in some information about what your type of business is, who your customer is, and then you can get that information for Spokane County either by like, this is 99208 might be the best zip code for that type of a
Okay.
business, or You can do by like home value, assessed home value, all
Yeah.
sorts of different features. So there's a lot of information that we can help people gather from that resource.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to mention?
The other thing I want to make sure we talk about is we have something called Washington State Legal Forms,
Oh,
which is a great resource because if you haven't thought about starting a business or you're just getting into it, there could potentially be a lot of different forms that you need. Everything from a lease agreement, if you're going to find a physical space for a business, to employer-employee forms as you're hiring
yes.
staff, to business licensing and other things like that. And most of those forms are available for free through this resource, and I think all of them provide examples of like, here's how you use
Yes.
it, here's how you would fill it out, and these are all free. So rather than, there may still be some things like if you're doing articles of incorporation or something that you're going to want to get an attorney.
An attorney for it, yes.
But there's a number of things that you don't need to, maybe spend that money on an attorney in the beginning if you can get the forms from this resource.
I remember when I was working at a company here in town, and I'm a communication specialist. So I do a lot of writing, and I started to write a weekly article for the Spokesman at the time, and I had to do a kind of a ratification to my non-compete.
Oh.
And so I remember we had downloaded a form. I worked with HR and everything, and we got it straightened out that this was a non-compete because it was a different topic than what I was working with that company for, and it was fine. And
Right.
we had to we downloaded something from the
That's
library,
awesome.
I'm sure.
That's great. Yeah, that's a great example.
And then and we had to fill it out and tailor it to my situation because I was the only writer for the company, so they didn't really have, this wasn't something they normally had to deal with.
Sure. Yeah, that's
So
a great example, Erin.
Yeah, so things like that where you maybe not, you don't think of it at the time, and then you start hiring people and you think, oh, okay, this is a situation that's come up. How do we handle it? What legal form do I even need?
Exactly.
And if you don't know, you can call the library.
Yep.
You can go online to our Connect page, and there's an Ask a Librarian form
Yep.
that you can fill out, and somebody will call you back with answers.
Yes. Yep. As if by magic.
As if by magic. And if you're really needing a little more in depth, like you're not finding what you need, or if you need help with any of these digital resources,
Yes.
book a librarian.
Book a librarian, and we're very excited. We've been doing in-person book a librarians
Okay.
now for, I want to say almost a month. At this
wow.
point, 3 weeks for sure.
Okay.
We still have the option to do them virtually if people are more comfortable with that. We're happy to do it that way. But sometimes it's just really nice to sit down with someone and go through it rather than doing it online. So that's on our website as well.
And if somebody really couldn't make it to either the programs coming up and had questions, said, that data Axle reference solution sounds like what I need, but it's a little intimidating. Not sure where to find what I need. They can book a librarian and get a half-hour one-on-one
Yes.
appointment.
They can for sure. Yep.
Okay, so one-on-one.
Yep.
Not, if you do better in one-on-one and not really in a classroom setting where you're not sure what's going to be covered, book a librarian is the way to go.
That's a great idea. Yep. We're always happy to help people that way.
Well, thank you, Stacy. This has been awesome, and I think people are going to get a lot of great information about businesses and for nonprofits, and I really look forward to seeing if we hear about any new businesses coming out in the county.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks for having me, Erin. This
Thank
is
you.
wonderful.
And you have a great day, and we'll see you next week.